in Newark Liberty International Airport here, waiting on my next flight on the way to Milan, Italy. And there's some breaking news out of Ukraine and Russia in that war. If the operation that took place last year against Hezbollah by the Mossad, in which they caused a bunch of electronic devices to explode and thereby injure or kill the person holding that device. Uh, and if we're going to call that one, as we have been, Operation Grim Beeper, then this particular operation that just happened in Ukraine, I would say let's come up with a, they're calling it uh, Operation Spiderweb, but I would say we need to come up with something more creative than that. So I'm going to think about that while we are talking here, and you need to hear what happened. So let's back up. And I'm sorry for not giving you a heads up before we went live, but I'm in a hurry because I'm here at the airport, and surprisingly enough, it's really hard to find a place to do a live broadcast in a major American airport. Um, Thanks for watching, though, everybody. Please like and share the podcast right now so that more people will come watch it and let us know where you're watching from. So, Ukraine apparently has been planning an operation for more than 18 months inside Russia. And so, what happened was a very coordinated attack by Ukraine across Russia, deep inside Russia, more than 4,000 kilometers deep. That's farther than from Los Angeles to New York. And Ukraine doesn't have any weapons that can fly that far. So they have been using long range drones and they've been using missiles to try to strike military targets inside Russia for some time. And, there have been some limits put on their ability to strike deeper into Russia with those munitions because the United States wouldn't allow them to to strike that deep inside Russia because they were afraid it would escalate the conflict. Well, those guardrails have been taken off, and instead of they don't have any missiles or drones that will fly 4,000 kilometers. It's more than 2,500 miles. Uh, so what they apparently did is they built hundreds of automated drones. They hid them in uh, containers that were built with a false top on them, and these containers had solar panels on the top, and they were remotely activated. Somehow they smuggled these things into Russia with hundreds of these drones built into false ceilings inside these containers. So if somebody opened the container, they wouldn't see anything; it'd be empty. But actually, the last 6 inches or something of the top of the container was a false ceiling, and so upon remote activation, the roof of these containers slid open to reveal the drones, and the drones, with remote activation, took off and flew to their predetermined targets. They were programmed with artificial intelligence to look for things that look like bombers and military aircraft and things like that. And it's a massive strike. I mean, we're talking about at least, by my count, at least 7 different locations across Russia, and these are not Ukraine bombing Russian civilians. Ukraine doesn't target civilians like Russia does. Okay, this is Ukraine. They targeted 7 military locations, strategic military locations, and I'll be honest with you. And doing a little research, just very quick, it figured out that they claimed that they destroyed 41 Russian bombers and not just bombers, but jets, other kinds of jets. And 41 of those that are all part of Russia's strategic nuclear capability, their aerial wing of their nuclear triad, represents 58% of all the bombers that they have in that strategic platform. And it would not only did they strike bombers, but they also struck a nuclear submarine. Now, that has not been confirmed by Russia, but there are videos out on TikTok and elsewhere that show the naval base and show damage to the sub, with the sub smoking. And you damage a nuclear sub, that thing's not going back to sea for a long time, and it's doubtful whether or not Russia even has the ability to repair that thing. Okay, now these bombers that got destroyed, many of them are completely out of production. They haven't been making them since the 1990s. But they are the backbone of Russia's strategic nuclear uh, projection capability. Okay, and they're not going to be replaced because they can't make them anymore. Uh, it- all in all, it looks like at least $3 billion worth of damage was done to the Russian military. And not only did they bomb these bombers and take out, Russia was able to continue striking at Ukraine, even though Ukraine was bombing anything that was close to the border inside Russia, because Russia's so big, they could just move their very important strategic assets away from that area, get them further away than Ukraine could strike. But in this case, uh, there apparently is no place inside Russia that is safe. And that is throwing Russia into chaos. They also struck uh, some aerial surveillance platforms, aircraft. They struck radar installations. They struck fuel depots. So there were just hundreds of these strikes. Now, Ukraine has been sending about 300 drones a day into Russia, striking things for some time. And Russia claims in the last month they've shot down like 2,700 drones, but that makes you wonder how many actually got through. So, but this is a significant step up from what Ukraine has been doing, firing them, sending these drones out of Ukraine into Russia. Uh, they apparently smuggled these containers into Russia, had them placed somehow in strategic locations next to military bases, airfields, and naval bases. And then all at once, push the button, and these things took off. And using artificial intelligence, it's almost impossible that every one of these was being flown by a person because, number one, they'd have to be pretty close by for that to happen. And so it looks like this was all done with artificial intelligence, which is mind-boggling. Okay. Now, when I was in Ukraine, I talked to uh, let's just say an American who worked for a three-letter agency who was there helping Ukraine put into place uh, drone tactics using drone swarms and artificial intelligence. And the way he described it to me was that they would be able to send a swarm of drones out over the battlefield, over an area, and those drones would take very high resolution pictures of everything on the battlefield, and then bring it back, run all those pictures through an AI that would be able to identify targets much better than a human eye could. Then it would rank those targets and send the top recommendations for what to strike to the commander. The commander then would approve whatever targets he wanted, and then they would program the another set of drones that fit into a cassette. That they kind of all go into this cassette, and they send it up in an airplane, and then the airplane kicks those drones out. And when they hit the slipstream, they activate and they go to their target and blow up their target. Well, what we just saw in Ukraine was a step beyond that, even. This is the new form of warfare. And Russia had Uh, and like I say, they probably just lost over 50% of their strategic air wing. Uh, these are bombers that cannot be replaced, even if Russia had uh, the, the manufacturing capacity and everything to do it, which is debatable. They don't have the technology anymore to replace those things. And if they did, it would literally take them 15 years to replace what just got destroyed. And we're talking about just the airplanes. We're not talking about the nuclear submarine that got hit. We're not talking about the radar facilities and the fuel depots and everything else. There were also two bridges that collapsed. One of them collapsed on top of uh, there was a vehicle bridge that collapsed on top of a train that was going by under the bridge. 7 people died in that. Um, those two events with the bridges collapsing were originally, Russia said, oh, they were just old bridges and they were in bad shape. Yeah, I mean, that would say something about Russian infrastructure if that's the case. But now they've come out and said, no, they were acts of terror. Um, and very well could be because they were routes where they could be, they're hitting transportation routes. So this was not just an attack on Russian bombers. This was an attack on Russian logistics. This was an attack on Russian communications. And what it's done is it's thrown the Russian government into disarray. There, Putin was pulled into an emergency meeting over this. There will likely be very serious repercussions, very serious reply from Russia to Ukraine. And it kind of makes you wonder. I mean, there's a lot of Russian mill bloggers that are talking about um, a nuclear response that Russia would be now um, thinking about actually nuking Ukraine. I don't think that's likely just because that will be an escalation that would draw in NATO, and Russia cannot afford to fight NATO. They know that. There's no question that they would lose and lose badly against a united front if they go to war with NATO. And it's been made very clear to Russia throughout this war that if they use any kind of nuclear weapon, tactical or strategic, that nuclear weapons will be used on them. And so there's that. So um, just really surprising. This was apparently overseen by Vladimir Zelensky and the head of their uh, GRU. And I've actually interviewed both those guys. They may have taken, it makes you wonder if they took page from the Israelis and saw what Israelis did with the um, Operation Grim Reaper and said, "Hey, we need something clever like that. We need somebody to do something clever like that for our our fight here in Ukraine." Because they put this operation together again. Said they've been planning it for 18 months, so that's before Operation Grim Reaper took place. But like I say, we need to come up with a more creative name. Their name was Operation Spiderweb. So I think I'm gonna. How about we call it Operation Bomb Voyage? That's just that's my idea. Operation Bomb Voyage. Uh, so just to reiterate, massive attack all across Russia, at least 7 major sites, all of them military related. Bomber bases as far as Irkutsk and up in Siberia, and a naval base. They struck a a nuclear submarine. They struck, they say 41 aircraft, and they're showing video of this, so it's hard for Russia to deny it. A lot of the things that Russia is denying, there's video out there that shows that Russia is lying. So that's no change from the norm, right? So a lot of people are talking about Russia going nuclear from this, but they they destroyed 41 aircraft, damaged a nuclear submarine. There may have been some other naval assets that were damaged as well. The pictures that are coming out show not just like a little bit of smoke rising, but like it looks like the whole base is on fire. And these were hundreds of drones all striking simultaneously inside Russia as far as 4,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, 2,500, 3,000 miles. I mean, we're talking about all over Russia. And this just took out at least 15% of the total nuclear strike capability of Russia, the strategic nuclear capability of Russia. Uh, just just got decimated. I mean, I saw one guy said that the last time Russia got hurt this bad was about 80 years ago to the day, almost to the day, and when the Germans turned on the Soviets and uh, damaged about 15% of their air force back then. So, sorry, I don't have time to answer questions. I've got to get to my airplane, but things are ramping up in Ukraine without a doubt. I will be in Italy for the next few days, and am trying not to be online too much. But if this continues, I certainly will update you as needed. So, God bless you. Thank you very much for watching.